think that speaks to not only the hard work of the Finance Committee and the hard work of the Mayor, but also the support of all of you and the energy here in the Second Congressional District behind this race. We are lucky today to have with us here at the beautiful James Mitchell Barnum Armory, which we'll talk about in a second, some of our other public servants who are elected to office. I want to start with a close personal friend of mine, Cranston Mayor Ken Hopkins is here with us. We're also joined this afternoon by the Honorable Mayor of Ward, Frank Picosi. As always, Cranston comes out strong for the Mayor. Joining me here on stage is Councilwoman Nicole Renzulli. Cranston City Councilman and Chairman of the Cranston Republican City Committee, Matt Riley, is with us. Cranston City Council President Chris Pavlaskis is here. We are joined by our fearless leader in the Rhode Island GOP, Chairman Sue Cianchi is here today. Stepping outside of Cranston, we have Middletown School Committee member Leanne Fenton, who is here with us today. Cottage Green Town Councilwoman Hillary Lima is also here today. President Mark Torgey is here. I want to thank all of our elected representatives today for their service to their communities and to the state. We're also lucky today to have 3 people who are running for office here in Rhode Island and hope to get elected in November. We hope we can count on you to support them as well. Ashley Callis is here. She is running for governor. Amanda Blau is here. She's running for state representative in Cranston. And Jessica Drew Day, who's running for Narragansett Town Council, is here. If I missed anyone, you can blame Mayor Fung. He was up there in the rafters, made great beams down as people walked in. So you can come see me afterwards, and we'd be happy to introduce you. So when the Mayor shared that he wanted to kick off his campaign here at the Barnum Armory, I was very excited because those of you who know me know that I spent my career in public history, particularly in early American history and especially New England history. So the opportunity to be here in this armory with its great collection and the stories that it tells about early Americans, particularly James Mitchell Barnum, was a real treat for this event in particular. So I started thinking about, and I'll just make a plug, by the way. So you're here. How many of you have been here to the Barnum Armory before? Awesome. For those of you who haven't, I would urge you to stay for a little while at today's event, walk around, come back and visit. You know, Rhode Island is home to so many amazing historical sites and institutions. And as we think about this coming election being an important election for our state and for our country, take some time this summer to visit those institutions. They could use your support. You learn a lot about the Rhode Islanders who made a big difference in the formation of our nation, like Barnum and others. So come back if you can, as often as you can. So when I was thinking about being here and thinking about Barnum, who was part of the first Continental Congress and who was also fighting with people like George Washington and Alexander Hamilton during the American Revolution, I thought about a book that I had read a number of years ago, written by an author who has since unfortunately passed away. His name is James Reese. He was, for many years, the CEO of Mount Vernon, which is the house and the estate of George Washington, the country's first president. James Reese wrote a book called George Washington's Leadership Lessons, what the father of our country can teach us about effective leadership and character. Now, we all know, that the country has a history that we're not always very happy about. And certainly our founding fathers, while extraordinary in many ways, had their own sins that they were reconciling, and that we're reconciling now. But James Reese, basically an expert in George Washington, describes a number of character traits that he thinks leaders, particularly leaders in public service, can actually glean from Washington's life. So I thought I would share with you a short list of those characteristics and traits. And as I do, I want you to think about what you know about Allan Fung and what you've experienced working with him when he was on the Cranston City Council, when he was mayor for 12 years, and when he was a candidate for governor. And think about if there was a box next to each of these characteristics, you could check that box for Allan based upon what you know of him. This is what James Reese said George Washington brought to public service. He said, a leader has vision. A leader is honest. A leader is courageous. A leader has self-control. A leader takes personal responsibility. A leader is determined. A leader has a strong work ethic. A leader uses good judgment. A leader learns from his or her mistakes. A leader is humble. A leader does the research and the development himself or herself. A leader exceeds everyone's expectations. And finally, a leader has heartfelt faith. That last one really struck me when I was thinking about it. For George Washington, faith meant a couple of things. While he was not conspicuously a religious man, he believed strongly in the freedom of religion and in the morality of a nation. He also had a very strong faith in his fellow man. The philosopher Voltaire said that faith consists of believing when it is beyond the power of reason to believe. As we stand here today in the Varnum Armory, reminded of our founding fathers and the revolutionary leaders, we are united together by our faith in Allan Fung. We have faith that Allan embodies all of the leadership characteristics of George Washington, who is quite possibly, in many experts' regards, the best president the country has ever had. We have faith that Allan Fung will lead with independence and will always do what is best for the people of the Second Congressional District, as he has done for the taxpayers of Cranston. We have faith that the citizens of the Second Congressional District will choose a congressperson who has lived in the worked in the district for decades. We have faith that this country can once again be the America that drew Allan's parents here all those years ago for a better life for them and for their children. This election in November is not just about Allan. It is about each and every one of us. We want a leader with the qualities that George Washington embodied. We need a leader with those qualities representing us in Washington. And we have that leader. He is standing right here with us. Ladies and gentlemen, the next congressman from the Second Congressional District, Allan Fung.
Thank you. Thank you. Wow. I miss you all. It's so good to be back. No, there's a spirit in America. A spirit of rising every time we fall. A spirit of pulling together and saying, we can fix this. We can do this. Together, we can do anything. And when we look through our American history, great accomplishments come not by fighting with one another, but by joining at the elbows and saying, let's change the world. Let's face it, folks. I don't think everyone in Philadelphia, especially at Independence Hall, saw eye to eye on 100% of those issues. But you know what they did? They put their differences aside, worked together, and together they forged the greatest democracy that our world has ever seen. Woo! And ladies and gentlemen, that is why I am running for Congress to return that same spirit to Washington, D.C. for all of you. It's time, folks. It's time to say goodbye to hyper-partisan politicians and usher in a new wave of leaders who are laser-focused problem solvers. Leaders who have fearlessly tackled the big issues and accomplished things that everyone else said was impossible. Nothing is impossible. We accomplished pension reform in Cranston when everyone said it couldn't be done. And it worked by not ramming things down our workers' throats, but by respecting each other, sitting across the table, and coming up with solutions together. Because you see in Cranston, I worked across party lines. Take a look at this crowd. You've got Democrats here, Republicans, Independents, people of all walks. We transcended and went beyond ideological differences to transform our city that was once on the brink of financial ruin into one of the best cities to live in America, folks. We didn't do that by digging ourselves into deeper ideological trenches, but by extending our hands to our neighbors and lifting each other up. We pulled neighbors into lifeboats during those once-in-a-century floods in 2010. We delivered food and medication to our seniors and families in need during the pandemic. We built playgrounds and recreation fields, a vibrant business environment, and a whole community that celebrated each other's success. Because you see, together we rise. We'll need that spirit more than ever, because in D.C. the problems are great, and of that there is no doubt. We've lost our energy independence as a nation, and our country is running on empty. Instead of relying on our fellow American workers to supply our gas and oil, we've become dependent on dictators in Iran and Venezuela. That's got to stop. And every time we head to the gas pump, I know I cringe, I'm sure many of you do too, we're thinking to ourselves that this is going to cost me the same amount to get to work this week that it would for a filet mignon dinner at our Capitol Grill. And that's wrong. That's way wrong. I'm optimistic, folks. I know we can fix this. We must fix this. We cannot have our seniors freezing in their homes next winter, struggling to pay their home heating oil. We have to admit that our current policies are not working, and we have to increase our domestic oil and natural gas production. We must tap into sources like our drilled but uncompleted wells and get the domestic supply back into our own markets. You know what? We have to work towards a healthier environment, because we can't walk and chew gum at the same time. Because we have to incorporate properly sited renewable energy into the mix. I think of solar on brownfields, just like what we did at the old Capuana landfill right in Cranston, or even siting them on our schools, like at Cranston High School West. Wind turbines that are not disrupting our precious fishing industry. We can do more than one thing at a time, and we can become energy independent once again, ladies and gentlemen. Well, what's on everyone's minds every single day? We have to tackle this uncontrolled inflation that's hitting us in our pocketbooks. It's the #1 worry for all hardworking middle-class Americans right now. Not even middle class, every single American right now is getting hit in their pocketbook, and that's wrong. Inflation is so high, you're losing thousands out of your wallet because prices are skyrocketing and your paychecks can't keep up. And let's face it, folks, if losing money is what you expected from this administration, while the Vice President said to voters, you got what you deserved in 2020 in the elections, well, I can tell you, many of our state, many across the country are asking for a refund. Take a look at our store shelves. You know, when we're looking for our products, sometimes it's tough to find. At our local markets, you know, even when you can find it, what's happening? You're paying an arm and a leg more than what you did a year ago. But it's become not just about cutting coupons to survive, it's about cutting back on family nights. That precious family night is whether it's at Twin Oaks or right down the street at Iggy's. That's for you, Mayor Picosi. In your electronics, good luck. Appliances are on back orders for weeks, and car parts are on back order for months. The supply chains have more log jams than Route 4 on a gorgeous, beautiful day, and we're going to turn that around. This is real, folks, and it impacts all of us. I spoke with a friend who has 3 teenage daughters, and she's struggling right now. She's paying hundreds more a month to pay to feed them and her entire family, and also to gas up her car. So she has to put off routine maintenance on that car because there's only so far you can stretch that dollar. And you know what it reminded her? It reminded her, and me, and many of you, of our childhood. Remember those disastrous years in the Carter administration with gas lines and only getting gas on those certain days of the week when you had an odd or even license plate number? I didn't know what was going on when I was a kid. But it was because of those policies that caused those lines, just like what we're facing right now. The policies that we are facing today out of Washington, D.C. are causing the same issues that are hitting our pocketbook every single day. We've gone so far off the right path, it's not even funny. DC needs to stop spinning its wheels and help all of us. Help all of us in the Second Congressional District, help all of us in Rhode Island, help all of us across our country. We have to check inflation. We need to put a stop to the insane progressive spending. Because let's face it, does Nancy Pelosi really need $200 million for a pet project at the Presidio Park? Come on. You know, we have to be adults in the room who can prioritize our spending and say no to this nonsense. I did that when I first got into Cranston, and that's what I'll do when I get down to Washington, D.C. But it's more than about that. We also have to invest properly. We have to invest in modernizing our ports country, including right down the road at Cranston. We have to also incentivize high-tech manufacturers to make their products, important products like our semiconductors that are so critical to our phones and everything else, our vehicles that we drive. You know where I'd like to have them made? Right here in the good old US of A. And folks, how about right here in good old Rhode Island? Because we can welcome these companies, welcome them to Johnston, to Cranston, to Warwick, and all across the district. I want to pay the American worker to build our products and not be relying on unstable regimes charging more for everyday items that we rely upon. To rebuild our domestic strength and be a superpower like we once were. And finally, now more than ever, we need a leader who will stand shoulder to shoulder with, and I see many of those guys in the rooms, guys that I'm proud to stand shoulder to shoulder with, our law enforcement community, and stand for the rule of law. Why that's important. Because when rioters came to Cranston back in 2020, many of you remember that. You know the message we sent to them? Not here, not now, not ever. I was proud to stand alongside my police officers, not only from Cranston, but all across the state, as we guarded our local business district. That important local business that's in the heart of Cranston, Garden City and Chapel View. And then, that wasn't the only time. We also stopped the ATV gangs from entering our city on Elmwood Avenue and stopped them from terrorizing our residents. We didn't back down then, we didn't flinch, and we stood united. Cranston remains safe because we stood strong together. Nationally, we're seeing these progressive policies that are weak on crime, with rioting in the streets and human trafficking and fentanyl pouring through our porous borders. We see progressive leaders that are more worried about protecting looters than our small business owners. That's gotta change. And you know what? That weak mindset is bleeding over into our foreign policy. We once stood strong against the tyrants of the world. None of them dared to take on the US of A. Our country is in retreat from the disastrous calamity in Afghanistan to the genocidal insanity that we are witnessing across our TV screens and our phones right now that's going on with Russia's invasion of the Ukraine. Like I said, at one point in our lives, no one dared to challenge the United States. Now, since the Afghanistan withdrawal, everyone is thinking, why not? Right now, our country needs strong leadership. Our state needs strong leadership. And the men and women of the Second Congressional District need strong leadership to right the economic ship and keep our neighbors and neighborhoods safe. Now is the time, folks. Now is the time to dream big dreams and do big things. We'll bring common sense back to Washington, D.C., and our successful formula from Reservoir Avenue to Pennsylvania Avenue will be brought with me. Will help to end the hyper-partisanship that has made us all disgusted with national politics. I won't be the partisan answer, but I will be that Rhode Island answer that represents all of us. I'm looking forward to that challenge. Ladies and gentlemen, you know me. I'm that homegrown kid like Jim Donahue said. My parents came to this country in search of a better life and a dream. Raised myself and my two younger sisters. I'm proud to stand with all of you. I'm Allan Fung, and for over a decade, we did amazing things in the great city of Cranston. Now, I'm asking for an opportunity to serve all of you once again, and I'm humbly asking for your support to be Rhode Island's next congressman in this Second Congressional District.